Our next guest has been working in the San Diego sports scene for quite some time. He's kind of a renegade. You may not have heard of him, but you will definitely remember his name after today. Please welcome to the show, Dan McLellan. Dan, how are you doing, sir?
I'm doing great. I'm really happy to be here and perhaps tell a different story that's been told publicly about what's going on with the Chargers and the stadium and the convention center.
Okay, and so in the convention center, so you're the first person in that whole discussion who's brought up the convention center, at least that I've heard. How does the convention center factor in to the Chargers and the stadium situation?
Well, let's create a little history of what's gone down in the convention center. And I don't think the public has a good understanding of it. There's a need to expand the convention center, which everybody agrees upon, because Comic-Con has reached a point where it just can't grow any bigger.
True.
And if you don't create a larger space for them, they can threaten, like the Chargers, to move to another city that's going to accommodate their needs. So for a long time, there's been an effort to expand the convention center. And the hoteliers invested 6 years and lost $10 million to do a contiguous expansion. And contiguous
So that's no longer happening, that expansion
well,
that
that's
they
what
talked about?
they're still striving for, but we
Okay.
need to understand why it's not going to happen. A contiguous expansion simply means connected to the existing facility.
Okay.
And if you were to expand contiguously at the current convention center site, you would then block the public's access to the bay. Now, we have a legal right to access the bay. That was left to us in trust. So the hoteliers, this was an inconvenient truth for them. So they went on a campaign that says the only way in San Diego that we can expand the convention center is through a contiguous expansion. And they got the Coastal Commission to give them the rubber stamp on that, which they needed in order to be able to do a contiguous expansion. So that right now is being fought in court by Corey Briggs, and he's likely going to win that case, which will prohibit a contiguous expansion, because we now know there are alternatives to contiguous expansion. And if you have a viable alternative to contiguous, you have to go with that because of the public's right of way to the bay access.
Okay, so it starts with Comic-Con. The hoteliers, meaning the big hotel lobby,
Right,
okay,
yeah.
right, who want the expansion. They're not concerned necessarily about the public's access to the bay.
Right.
They want the expansion because it's going to be good for their business, but they're probably going to lose.
Correct.
And that is somehow connected to what's going on with the Chargers and the whole stadium deal?
It is. So they already lost one legal battle that was pretty significant. I don't know if you remember, a couple years back, it looked like we were going to expand the convention center.
Yeah.
And that was after the Coastal Commission did their stamp of approval for a contiguous expansion, but they still needed a way to fund it. And they decided to fund it by raising the TOT tax, the money
Right.
out-of-towners pay to stay in the hotels, 1% to 3% based on where the hotels were in location of the convention center. So if the hotel was right there, it'd be a 3% hike. Out here in Sorrento Valley, it'd be a 1% hike. But they didn't trust the public to approve that, so they disenfranchised the voters. And Mayor Faulkner, then Councilman Faulkner, voted for this, that they would allow the hoteliers to vote on their own tax increase. And at that time, the Chargers and other citizens groups said, hey, this is unconstitutional to raise this tax without the city council voting on it or the public voting on it. You can't let the hoteliers raise their own tax. And they said, oh, no, we can do that. Well, Corey Briggs took them to court and beat them. That it was proven unconstitutional. 3-judge panel unanimously voted it's unconstitutional. The ruling was so strong, the hoteliers decided not even appeal to a higher level in the court system. That's where the funding went away.
Interesting.
So we're now back to fall of last year. The Chargers came to Mayor Faulkner with the same plan they came to Sanders with, saying, let's expand the convention center non-contiguously. We can combine the stadium and the convention center with a multi-use facility that will provide 240,000 square feet of convention space, and it will also provide a stadium, and that would cost $1.2 billion.
So the Chargers brought this to the mayor?
Correct,
Okay.
yes. And the mayor, when you talked about the mayor and the Chargers having beers in La Jolla, this is what they were talking about.
Okay.
So the mayor couldn't get the hoteliers on board with this plan. So what he did is created the Citizen Stadium Advisory Group, which is CSAG, and this really did two things. It created the illusion that there was choice between downtown and Mission Valley, and it provided political cover for the mayor if a deal could not be worked out in Mission Valley. And when I say that it created an illusion, I'm saying this based on sitting down in a meeting with members of CSAG and going, why not downtown? What are the obstacles of downtown? Because I know the obstacles of Mission Valley, and I have a laundry list of them right here.
So you think the mayor did all this on purpose? Basically what you're saying is that there's some sort of conspiracy, if you will? Or what is he conspiring? In other words, why wouldn't the mayor want to go with the Chargers idea?
Because if you were to go, I would invite everybody listening here to go to a new website called Hotelier Cabal, which was launched by former Mayor Faulkner supporter George McLellan. He's a businessman downtown and an artist. And George McLellan does a very fine job of showing all the things that the hoteliers have goofed up in the city over the last few years with the power that they have. He also, with public records, shows the amount of money that they have donated to Faulkner campaigns going back over multiple years. So Faulkner is very much tied to the hoteliers in terms of being able to please it's really, about four or five big hotels. Now, not every single hotelier is a bad guy.
Why do the hoteliers care about whether it's a contiguous expansion or a non-contiguous expansion? Why do they care?
There's two answers to that. One is that they believe it's going to best suit their guests that their guests would prefer a contiguous expansion. So they want something that's going to best please the conventioneers.
Okay.
The other thing they have voiced is there's a concern that conventions tend to book out years in advance. And an NFL schedule will come out 6 months ahead of time. So there does create a conflict with the new facility for booking long-term conventions. But what you need to keep in mind is that we would still have the existing convention space, which would never be in conflict with a stadium downtown. So, and only the largest conventions like Comic-Con would actually use both facilities, if that makes sense. And that doesn't conflict with the NFL schedule at all.
It does make sense. I'm just having a hard time figuring out why the hoteliers would want to go this way, why they would care so vehemently. And I don't know if you know this or not, but I had Tony Manolatos on the show not too long ago. I believe he's a part of that advisory group, the Stadium Advisory Group.
He's the spokesman for it.
He's the spokesman for the advisory group. And he said that that the city did put a plan in front of the Chargers, and that the Chargers walked away from the table. You're saying that's not what happened?
No, what he's proposed is that the city has told the Chargers, hey, we'll talk about downtown if you sign a 7-year extension that locks you to Mission Valley in the meantime. You don't have to sign that extension for you to talk about Mission Valley, only for downtown. Now, if the Chargers were to sign that 7-year extension, then the Mayor Faulkner can jump up and down and say, hey, I've saved the Chargers and I've passed the buck on to somebody else, and they're here for another 7 years, and the Chargers will have lost their leverage to get something done in the meantime. So I'm just saying, forget the 7-year extension. Just negotiate downtown, because it's considerably cheaper and it brings the Chargers to the table. One of the big lies that has been told to the citizens of San Diego is that Mission Valley would be a cheaper choice for downtown, and that's certainly not the case at all. Right now, and I don't think you could do it, they're saying it would cost $1.1 billion to build a new stadium in Mission Valley. Remember my number of $1.2 billion to do a stadium and convention center downtown. The city already released a new cost estimates for a contiguous expansion, and they put that at $550 million. So if you have the $1.1 billion, saying you could do it for that downtown, and then add the $550 million to expand the convention center separately, you're at nearly $500 million more to be able to do these projects apart than as if you were to combine them and do them together downtown.
Fantastic stuff. Dan McLellan, thank you so much for coming in today, man. Really appreciate your time. A different take on the whole Chargers stadium debacle. Really appreciate insight from Dan McLellan. He is the sports renegade here in San Diego. Stick around for more Smarter San Diego TV, where we guarantee to make you smarter than everyone else, commercial free.